So, many of you might be wondering, what am I doing with this cape? Well, tra-la-la! So yeah, I'm going to be doing a review of Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. And actually, to wondering, for those of you right now, I got an early screening of the films, though you'll be seeing this during the film premiering worldwide. And yes, I managed to go to this premiere, and not only that, I managed to get a signature from Dave Pilkey, the author of the book. He's an awesome guy. So yeah. Now before I begin the review, I also want to talk about my history with the Captain Underpants series. You see, I remember reading the books back in middle school. I managed to look at them a little bit, and then I started to realize, okay, these are a funny amount of books. I don't think they're really going to go anywhere. I mean, some people will remember them, maybe many will remember them. I don't know where it goes. It's probably, just the idea of a guy being a superhero in his underwear. So yeah, really. But it seems I was wrong, because these books have been going on literally since 2015, which was the last book. That's only a few years ago, and still people are talking about it. And of course, DreamWorks got the idea of, hey, why don't we make a movie based on these books? And so Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, is released. And okay, so of course, any of you who've never heard of the story, let me just get it run down. So the story's about two kids named George Beard and Harold Hutchinson, who are two naughty boys who want to pull pranks in their school because they feel that school is way too boring for them. They, of course, get in trouble by this principal known as Mr. Crump, who finally gets footage of them doing a prank. Now Mr. Crump is finally putting his foot down and gonna put these boys in separate classes. Ooh! Okay? It doesn't mean, the movie kind of indicates that they live next to each other, so I don't know how they'll stop being friends since they're in separate class. Yeah, it kind of almost doesn't make any sense, but then of course George comes out and hypnotizes Mr. Crump, and so when George snaps his fingers, he asks him to be the amazing Captain Underpants. So now the principal believes that he is the title character of this movie, Captain Underpants, where now he runs amok through the city, and so a lot of crazy stuff happens, and that's pretty much the basic story of the movie. So of course now I get into my positives and negatives of the film. Alright, so my positive of this film, I can definitely say that this film is really, really funny. At first I was thinking that, knowing how the bunch of the child humor in the original books were pretty much, some things stay, but some things kind of go, like some of the jokes. I've noticed that when reading some of the original books, I've only read the first 4 books recently, and it seems like some of the humor is definitely good, but then some humor feels like it's not going to catch on. But actually, the writers of this movie not only took inspiration from Dave Pilkey's book, but actually creative new ideas for the series, and it works really well. Like, I can tell you that it's just so unique just to see these characters try to do new things in these films. It's so unique. Some of the jokes in these movies are really interesting. Like, I've noticed that if you've seen some trailers or clips of the films that they've released, it's definitely more funnier than the clips you've seen. There's a lot of funny scenes. There's definitely one scene in the movie which I thought, at first I was just like, yeah, I know what's coming. But then somehow they really surprised me. It was hilarious. And I definitely have to say that the film definitely does take a lot of things that somehow they didn't take from the original book. There are definitely a lot of original ideas. So, in my opinion, even if you've never read the books, you'll still enjoy this movie. It's definitely more original than many people would expect, but it definitely has the same formula than any Captain Underpants book. Captain Underpants saving the day, and George and Harold being right behind him trying to figure out what to do. Though they definitely, of course, add some things to the movie that make it more unique. Now, so yeah, here are my negatives for the film. I do felt that some of the jokes in the movie, knowing how it's just mostly potty humor, it definitely does wear it down a little bit. I mean, at some point it just really goes insane almost. I mean, there's this one scene in the movie where it's just a bunch of kids doing a lot of, whoopee cushions. Also, I feel that some audiences might find George and Harold to be really obnoxious in this movie because at some points they do kind of go too far with their pranks or in control of Mr. Crumps when he's Captain Underpants. I feel like at the same time, while they're doing the right thing, sometimes it feels like they're kind of it's kind of a little bit mean-spirited and it just doesn't feel right almost. But at the same time, they're not doing it just because they feel like it's right. They do it just because they just want to have fun and just escape the boredom of school. I mean, if you were a young kid, were you bored when you were in kindergarten or first grade? I guess that's kind of the thing. That's kind of how they feel. I also found that the friendship between George and Harold at some points are a little bit exaggerated. Like there's this one scene in the movie where they try to exaggerate what's going to happen if they separate from each other. Like, will they ever see each other again if that's going to happen? Or if they're even going to remember each other. I guess that's kind of the thing, that they're trying to make sure that their friendship is really strong, but at the same time, it also kind of feels weird. So yeah, pretty much those are my little negatives of the film, but overall, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, is actually really good. It's definitely really fun. A lot of the jokes hit bullseye, while few are kind of not that great as much as they want it to be. I also feel that this movie has an emotional point to it. I mean, there is a lesson in the end of the movie where you kind of get it the first time, and it's actually a very good lesson. And I feel that in the way they try to bring the characters of George and Harold growing up and trying to know what is right from wrong. And it's really touching, actually. It's very wonderful. It's pretty beautiful, actually. So yeah, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, in my opinion, gets the grading of A. So yeah, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. What did you think about it? Did you think it was a hilarious film? Or did you think that there were way too many poop jokes? Leave it in the comments below. And that's all the time we have for today, guys. Alaska Koala signing out. And I'll see you on the next review.